What's good, everybody? So, today I'm gonna be getting into some real shit right here. Some things are gonna be mentioned that are a lot more personal, even more so than like the previous video where I had discussed like my own little like journey in Street Fighter 6 from like platinum to ultimate master and how I was feeling in general about the game and like how I thought about things like on a competitive standpoint and how I was kind of facing a bit of burnout. They were very like brief things, but I'm gonna be touching on those things a bit more because um kind of in between like my small little break I'm taking now. Who knows if it's gonna be definite. I'm still waiting to kind of see and like let life naturally take its course at this point, but I'm looking back at like how involved I was, not involved in a way like where I had a hand in organizing these big events or like influence on like people like the big creators have, but involved in the sense to where like I allowed like you know a good portion of my time of day to be dedicated to playing fighting games. Now, uh at the time I thought it was like okay when I was playing Dragon Ball because um I did have competitive ambitions to be something of a top level player at the time. But when Street Fighter 6 released, I already had mentioned this many times before, but like that really started to die down, especially when I learned that a game like Dragon Ball was not going to be showing up in the main stage anymore. And I had given like 5 to 6 years of my life to that game, which is one that I don't really regret because a lot just by playing the games themselves have given me a lot of like I've had fun playing the games and stuff, and I've had develop a few things like skills and stuff that allowed me to kind of take into other areas of my life, which is something that most people don't talk about, which is something that I want to talk about here too. That have actually like benefited me, but there are their downs too, which is something that I'm wanting to address now because a lot of people don't really talk about it. Maybe people don't talk. People will talk more about like the financial aspect of things, which that too is also a contributor to why I'm like stepping a lot further away from things. But I guess people don't talk about they themselves as like the individual and like how this shit kind of like changes you and stuff. Because I started to notice like how much it was like moving the opposite direction from other endeavors that I actually prioritize just as much, and even more so now. That's why I'm actually sitting in front of like the mic here in front of like my PC and like chatting it up and stuff for like the content shit, because I'm seeing that a lot of people have actually gotten like good feedback from some of the things I've said. And as always, like there are people that like disagree here and there or like may give their own experiences that I kind of feel like some people miss the point sometimes when I like talk about things. But then again, like trying to explain things behind the mic is kind of weird to me still, because like if I'm more of like a face-to-face kind of person with like I need to have like another human in front of me. But like trying to pretend that this computer screen is like me talking to another person is like it's not something that is it's not easy to do for me. And I'm actually wondering how like these top like Twitch streamers are able to do that shit. Even though they know that there's like millions of people watching them and stuff, but you know, it's like they're able to completely shut the fact that they are literally alone in their room talking in a mic. It's almost as if they are talking to themselves. Actually, they literally are to an extent talking to themselves and just reading shit off the screen, which to me that's just like I don't think I'll ever get used to that shit, even though I feel like I'm doing a better job at it now. But we'll see how long that'll last. And but the confidence that it has given me, like knowing that like people share like similar ideas and stuff, actually it blew me away, because like I thought I was always like the minority when it comes to like certain shit that I hold like mentally, as far as like even like my own principles and stuff, and like the way I see things. Like I don't really think, or I didn't believe others saw it the way I did at the time, but there are others that clearly do. And I had a lot of people like give their own little like I guess backgrounds when it comes to this shit. And I'll be mentioning some of those. I won't out like who specifically they are, because some of them did share like personal things. But it really goes to show that some of the things I say are actually in the back of people's minds, but it's definitely not talked about, because I guess like the scene is not really that inviting towards certain ideals and stuff, which I knew from the get that I was probably going to be faced with like some kind of backlash the more I reveal about like some of the things that I believe in and who I naturally am as a person. That's why I considered myself to be the minority. But even when I headed to the offline scene, like a lot of people tend to be cool with me. Plus I make it known that I voice what the fuck I think. Like I'm not afraid to speak my mind, so I naturally just don't give a fuck about what you think about some of the shit that comes out of my mouth. I even play with it at some point. Like, I may say some outrageous shit because I know you'll react to it. It's it's really easy when it comes to this field for the most part. But to go back on some more serious shit, it's that on top of some of the more also the finances aspect of it too. Like, dude, having to spend like money not only to like drive out to these events is also like a budget in itself. Because sometimes like you'll be driving out like really far out for these like big events and shit, which is, it's something that I'm not really willing to do nowadays, especially for something FGC related, because I'd rather like spend some of my time and money to like go out and like vacation somewhere by like the beach or some shit. If I were to really like take time out of my day to like travel out far and stuff, I guess now that I'm kind of like easing off of things, I'm more looking into like things that I could do to like enjoy more of my time off and stuff, because I'm definitely a workaholic when it comes to like all this shit. It even goes past like the fighting games things. Like this is one of them and stuff. And even when I do like other endeavors like sports here and there, like I turn into a madman when I'm really involved with shit, which is a blessing and a curse and stuff. But definitely gonna be transmuting more of my energy towards that compared to like the fighting game stuff, because it's just not as rewarding, which is something that I really started to come to understand and digest even before I ever started to head out towards the local like scene and stuff. But I always went with the mindset then that like these events for the most part were good ways to kind of like connect with others that share like a similar interest as you, because like there's not many people that are into fighting games, and quite literally no one around me in my own local area, they literally don't play fighting games and stuff. So I'm probably the only person in town that even knows about games like Street Fighter, Guilty Gear, all the titles and stuff. And for that aspect it's cool. But it's like if you were to head into the state of mind to where you your entire life's mission was to be like this all-time great at whatever game that you profess to be, the one that will bring you into a top level player's like legacy and stuff, whatever the fuck you have in your mind, right? You're definitely gonna be investing a lot more than you would be getting back, which is something that I think would turn off everybody if they really just sat down with themselves to really like take a look at and just understand that that's just the way that things are. Unless like you are one of these top level players like Lashard, for example, Punk, Mena, who are able to, you know, enter at these events like Capcom Cup every year alone as a baseline just because of the fact they are that fucking good. You know, that's like how many people that you can count in your hands. And then you yourself are still amongst the waters of like the average person. Maybe you're not, actually, maybe you're not even the average person. Because I know for one, like, I am not the average person at all. Far from it, dude. There is no one like me in this world. And yet again, that's still not enough to even be at the level that they are at. And when you really understand where you stand in the grand scheme of things and how far you really are, your motivation, your ambition, your entire spirit can be crushed if you really like hold this to high regard and stuff, which I knew at one point it really was not worth it to kind of like put this thing above like some of the other endeavors, which are actually a lot more respected too. It just didn't, it really just didn't seem worth it and stuff. But nothing will change the fact that I enjoy playing like fighting games, dude. And going into brackets is actually like fun. I treat it as fun for the most part. But I know there are some folk who really like take this shit to heart and stuff. And it's now kind of looking cringe to me. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie to y'all. And I was there at one point. Wanting to be like this all-time great and stuff, and it's not like even nowadays, it's not that I believe that I could never, it's just that I believe that I could never see myself, you know, dumping it all into one like into one bet and waiting to see if I land correctly on the slot machine as far as like my own chances in beating a lot of these players in a major setting. Like the amount of skill and effort that it takes alone is like it's now really that unfathomable to me because there's a lot of strong competition out there. It took one point for me to realize that I myself am not also a bad player. It's just that everybody else is just that fucking good at the same time. Because I think a lot of us also tend to forget that maybe in this specific like area and field, a lot of us could be considered average relative to like, you know, who the average person is around you. But then if you bring everybody together and stuff and you just start going fighting random people, the chances of you actually like mollywopping every one of them is actually very fucking high. Because you're not surrounded around these like let's use the Street Fighter like ranks just to get you guys a clear picture. Like let's say you're some random like 1700, like let's say you're that relative to a skilled player of like a 1700 MR player or like even a 1600, right? And then like you take yourself and you throw yourself into an entire town full of people who like all play Street Fighter, but they're just like the average person and stuff. Even if you were relevant to a player with a skill set of that would equal them to like a 1600 MR player, like 9 times out of 10 you're literally beating every single one of those people because they are the They are the actual norm. They are the actual like baseline average player and stuff. The one who may like go in and stuff and like play like an hour or so like every other once and a half week or some shit. Or I don't even know how often like most of these casuals play and stuff, if you want to call them that. But to me, that just it's not even like that's the best way I could explain is maybe to that player, the 1600 MR player, that's not really the average to them and stuff. Like they may consider themselves to be the average based on the area that they're set in and stuff. Like that own small little bubble to where like, you know, players are playing to a much higher competitive standard. Their baseline level of like what they consider to be average or normal is so much higher than what's actually out there in the big picture and stuff. Maybe right then and there you guys will understand what I'm talking about, but you know, that like you may still be getting crushed by other players above you, but that's not necessarily because you yourself are the average or a low skilled individual. It's just that everybody else above you really is just that fucking good and stuff. And you yourself are still a part of that category. You may not be the highest ranking person in that subcategory of like strong players, which is why you are considered an average or like even low skilled to their eyes, to their standards, because the bar is set higher there. But outside of that and stuff, all of you are, you know, considered legends in the eyes of like the more casual average person. So yeah, you really have to come to realize that too, and be more forgiving too, and less harsh on like you yourself and stuff. Because I'm not gonna lie, I've seen a lot of people, like I've seen crash outs before on players who lose. I've seen stick slamming and stuff. I played against one person, right? And every time I won a round, he kind of like, I don't know if he was like, he kept scratching his head and he kept like freaking out in the inside. Like this was like last December and stuff at like an event at a final event towards like one of the venues that was like one of the main FGC venues in my region. I did not know how to respond and stuff, to be honest. Like there are people like that, and you could just tell right then and there that they really put their own self-value on this fighting game shtick, and it's not something that I want for myself to even have a chance of developing. So that's why I'm easing off of this shit now. And even when I lose in like brackets and stuff, like I don't really take it that personally, honestly. That's not to say that when I play also that I don't ever get mad, because it's just natural that these games, like you know, some experiences and some things that happen in game will definitely tilt you a bit. But you know, I'm definitely not slamming my stick or throwing a controller across the room anytime soon. Like that's just not me. And it would have to be when I'm more involved that I actually put a lot more emotional emphasis on it, which, like I mentioned, it's just not something that I don't think I'm actually capable of doing anymore at this point. Especially since I already had that 5-year period and stuff. And you know, like a lot of this really is like, you know, has existed as far as like my own content, like me showing up to the events and stuff, playing games with these folks. Like a lot of it comes from the passion of like fighting games themselves. Like to this day, nothing can take away like my own love for like fighting games and stuff. Like I think like the reward when you do put in the time and like come out with victories, and seeing yourself beat other players that may have consistently like beaten you before, but then now you're meeting that person eye to eye, and then you eventually like surpass them and shit. Like, dude, that feeling is like one of the greatest in the fucking world. It's one of the greatest, and it feels really that damn good and stuff. And I've had my wins against like some players that we consider like pros and stuff too, and I'm not gonna pretend and say that because of that I believe I'd beat them in bracket. But you know, having known that I have these capabilities and abilities that do rival those of like the higher level or top player, and it's like, you know, you can wear, I do kind of wear that, not really with pride, because pride is more ego driven and stuff, but like I know my own like value because of it, but not in a way where I see now I don't even know how to really explain it and stuff, but it's like, or maybe pride would be a good word. Maybe there is a bit of ego involvement in it and stuff, because, you know, but it's just knowing that, you know, it all came from being backed up by like the time and energy spent too, and you know that it's rewarded you in that aspect. Like it feels good, like, you know, it feels good to like win and stuff. I'm not gonna lie, like I've had my own like small little like first place finishes in some brackets and stuff, but I can't base all of my own like self-worth on something like that. It's just something small and nice to have and shit for me. I don't even mention it to most people, honestly. Like, there are very few people that know I even go out to these events and stuff. At least most people that are much closer to me IRL, because it's, you know, it's not the biggest thing to me at the end of the day. And it used to not be like that too. But when it was, like, it definitely took a lot more time out of my day just to like keep up some of these skills and stuff, and also to know what's like been developing in like the meta of whatever game I'm involved in. And all of that's nice and stuff when you have like people to talk about these things with who share these same interests, which most of the local folk I know like have been for the most part like cool with me. But even with that, like I still kind of consider myself to be like kind of like the minority or the black sheep of things, because I don't really share the same like sentiment and certain mentalities when it comes to like what I most commonly see with the FGC. And I knew where I stood in the entire grand scheme of things, so that's why I also don't really like to pay attention too much anymore with how things go on, especially since I know how Twitter, or X as you call it now, I know how that place can be at times, which is why I don't even like to involve myself in social media anyways as a baseline. Like, no Instagram, no Twitter, none of that shit. Even though it would be beneficial from a more I guess content creator business avenue, but even then, like, I'm keeping this shit small for the time being, unless I really know like things can boom and stuff. But then again, like, I don't care for the most part. This is mostly just to like, you know, spit some of my own thoughts out there and like help you guys out for the most part. And with that also, like, I had these slides because like, well, actually, give me a sec, hold up. All right, I'm back. I went to get some water and also went to the bathroom. But I do remember what we left off on. It's time to finally get into the slideshow things to kind of like, you know, take things where I want to take them. Because a lot of the things I'd mentioned really dealt under the category of, depending on what I want to title the video, you may already know, but like a lot of it really involved a lot of like sacrifice and stuff, and that's actually why I have this title card here for the slideshow. The sacrifices that it takes to make everything a reality as far as like this FGC shtick. I really need to stop saying that, but I already had mentioned the amount of time and effort you have to put in as a baseline if you want to get to a certain point, but know that it also takes a lot of like each level you go will require more and more and more of these two categories and stuff, that it starts to get to a point to where you're seeing it take away some aspects of you that you may actually, enjoy in your day-to-day life and stuff, like the general like life pleasure stuff. Like maybe you actually do have friends, unlike most people, and you're snuffing out time that you have with them in order to like make space to be able to get in like practice with these games and stuff. Now I don't really know like if people actually do that. If people do, that's also insane to me. But then again, like at one point I was starting to get to that, which is something that I don't really advise people doing and stuff. But keeping things on track, like there's another thing I have down here, and that's embodiment and stuff, and it's something that I'm pretty sure I already like mentioned through like means of understanding that this shit can change you when you do start to involve yourself with a mind state that's more ambitious and competitively like driven when it comes to these things and stuff. And I think there's a slideshow for that. It has to deal with like the three things that I consider to be the main things that compose you as a person, and that's mind, body, and spirit. Now I will say that because we're talking about like video games, I'm not going to be going too deep with this kind of shit, because I don't really even think it involves that much as far as like the aspects of your body and stuff, because like you don't need to be like anyone even physically capable of walking to have some kind of advantage over someone in a fighting game. Like we know players like Broly legs have been around before, who have like some sort of physical incapacitation, and there was even a blind player who streams that's shown that he literally can play by like hearing the sound through his headphones and stuff, which it's amazing what people can do, man. Like rest in peace to Broly legs, and I don't know the guy's name, but shout outs to that dude. And yeah, so this right here is really not at all really a requirement or something that gets involved when it comes to this FGC like shtick, which is why I also don't find it that really appealing anymore, because like I have physical needs, I should say. Like I like to go outside, I like to be active, I also like going to the gym and stuff. Like it's being in this field works against that, since for the most part you're pretty much sitting in a chair for hours, for many hours a day and stuff. So definitely not healthy at all. But then again, a lot of you guys don't really care anyways. You guys might be the type of dude who downs like 6 monsters in a single night and is playing online ranked until like 4 a.m. But if you do, that's okay. You can do what you want. You're an adult. I'm not your mommy. I'm not your daddy. So, I'm just stating that that's not where I stand with things, and that's not what I choose to, take my life and live as. But as far as mentally and stuff, I won't say that, you know, it changed me to a point like mentally and stuff like there. Like the way I've come into the scene and stuff has pretty much been the same way I won't say coming out, because it's so weird to say like, you know, I was a part of the community and now I'm a refugee. I'm leaving shit behind me. Like what? No, like I don't know. I never really considered myself to be in the main body of things, in the main like out there in the mainstream of things. Like I always felt like I've been on the side and stuff because of already how different I think from like most people in general, and also definitely when it comes to like this shit, I'm on my own island for the most part. I just happen to be someone that shares the same passion for these games and stuff, that I'm able to connect with a lot of people through these means and stuff. And if I were to talk about like frame data here and there, they would get me. And that is something that I know I won't get anywhere else, but of course the FGC and stuff. But you know, when it comes to other things, the way that people kind of like treat, I guess, or it's mostly the attitude thing when it comes to this shit. It's definitely something that I've seen vary between like some of the players that I've met and stuff, like even through online means and stuff, right? I definitely don't I guess I should say like mind whatever mind. I don't really mind if shit goes towards my favor when it comes to like my own success in the field and stuff. Like it really doesn't matter to me which way the wind blows, is the best way I could put it and stuff. Because at the end of the day, like I already mentioned that I don't put my own like self-worth in it that much. My identity is not really based on like this endeavor of like fighting games and stuff. A lot of people know that I do play fighting games, and when it comes to video games, they know that I'm the guy they usually like look at as far as like where I exist in the world and stuff that's outside of this field. People just know that I am that guy. But within it and stuff, it's like I don't know. I don't really even pay attention to it that much. But I am aware of what goes on, and that's why I mentioned that it's a reason why I don't involve myself when it comes to like online things such as like Twitter and stuff. Like the YouTube thing's just gonna be pretty much the only thing and stuff. And I'm not gonna lie, a lot of things that people say are retarded and also just borderline like stupid toxic. So if I involved myself any deeper into the heart of things, like as far as that scene goes, I run the risk of allowing some of these things to change my own thoughts and opinions that will reflect you know, those that complain and have toxic tendencies, and I am not allowing myself to get involved with that in any way, because it's just not, it doesn't even like make me, it's just not the type of person I'd respect. So I definitely would not respect myself if I allowed myself to turn into something like that. Again, not outing anybody. I've never even had like real beef with people before too, and frankly, if someone has something to say, like it's like I come from, I'm not gonna say I'm some like hard ghetto person, but I've come from the outside. I've been in the streets, like, you know, say it in person and stuff. Say it to my face. That's all I'll say. But for the most part, I've been cool with everybody, so I don't really gotta worry about that. People are chill in the scene for the most part. And when I'm talking about spirit and stuff, it's like that's also coming into the category of like, you know, Spirit, how could I really describe this and stuff? Well, spirit is very it can kind of vary what you believe as an individual to be uh of what a real spiritual that's the best way I can come. I'm already fucking up so far. My thoughts are somewhere else at the moment. Something just right in my head, but okay. Spirit, by what I mean through spirit, of course, it's like whatever you believe to be the essence in which the universe like is composed of, that makes things move and stuff or exist, whatever, if you want to call it God and stuff, if you want to call it the universe, like the spirits and shit like that, like it can be whatever you believe in. But as far as like me and stuff, it's that force from within that basically works as the guide of the mind and the body towards like whatever it is, whatever like I guess mold of a human being you have, and some spiritual image from within that you are actively evolving into, and that can be anything and stuff that resides within your spirit. There's good spirit and bad spirit and stuff. So those will be like whatever this is to you, like that, whether through like a religious means or just like having your own little like small little beliefs that you develop by whatever, whether or not like someone like instilled it within you, or like whether life experiences have led you to believe certain things, like make of this what you will for yourself, because I try not to like come out and like influence people on it, because I think it's something that most people should have like a relationship with on their own and stuff, especially since like people are very strongly opinionated when it comes to like what they believe out of the universe and stuff, and especially if they're like religious and believe in like God and stuff. Like I know people who live by that, by like God's word, by the book, like reading the Bible, reading the Quran, the Torah, like, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that either. It's just that I try to be mindful of that too. So I allow you guys to fill that space in by yourself. But me, for the most part, I have my own little like set beliefs and principles on how this relates to us in the world and stuff. And I truly believe that this can come first at times, that'll guide like the mind and the body to develop in a certain way. Like that's why I always say it has to be like within you at first. It has to be within you to want to be like a successful like fighting game player. It has to be instilled within you, or else like you're not gonna enjoy the process at all when it comes to like developing and stuff. And also you're not gonna feel fulfilled when you do achieve anything within like the field of fighting games. And that's something that you have to really like know for yourself, that you deep within actually want to go through the processes and like the trials and tribulations of like becoming a better player and stuff. If not, you're literally just wasting your time, because this right here will let you know like where you really reside at, and where the path really will lead you to like fulfillment and stuff. Because I'm pretty sure everybody here doesn't want to waste their life away like wasting time doing the shit that they never wanted to do, which a lot of people do. And I feel so bad for them, man. Like I'd rather live a short life doing what I wanted to do, versus a long one where I spent it doing shit for other people and stuff, and allowing myself to just waste my years away. that linger on even longer because of it too. Not for me, man. So get yourself right on this end, and everything else will follow behind and stuff, because it'll be guided by what this has in store for you, and what it sees fit to be right in the universe. Best way I can put it so far. But 9 times out of 10, like, a lot of y'all might not even give a shit about this anyways, or even understand what I mean by any of the things I've said in this category, which, I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I could spend more time talking about it. I could break it down more. But life has shown me time and time again that sometimes you can be textbook perfect in their explanation, but you can't understand it for them. So, and this is going to be one of the few situations in which I tell y'all, if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. And if you don't got it, then you need to go get it. Now, I leave y'all guys with that. So, the other slide shows I had there just because, like, because, like, when it comes to these things, usually, like, the process starts to develop in, like, the thing that I believe, this is what I believe most people to, like, have experienced when it comes to, like, why they even start their journey to begin with. It's because this, for the most part, definitely reflects on, like, the kind of path that I've been in and stuff. Like, I was once, like, this young little 73 pound child, like, watching Daigo and Justin Wong play at Evo Grand Finals in Street Fighter 4 and being at odd, like, you know, how some of these guys were playing and some of the shit that I've never seen in any video game before happen. And I was definitely, like, impressed with a lot of the shit that I've seen and stuff, and so mesmerized by it all, like how some of these guys are doing the most complex things that could be done in any video game. And of course, it led me to a point to where, you know, I got my own arcade stick and stuff, and I was ready to take things online with a game called Street Fighter 4. And as I mentioned, to this day, that game changed my life forever, because it introduced me into the world of the FGC and competitive fighting games. And I had it in my mindset that I was going to be the master of a fighting game and stuff, and a high level player. And once I head to online for the first time, it was clearly evident right here. This also goes for any of you, mind you, that you also may be in the same boat, to where you hop online the first time and you get your shit wrecked. You get your shit wrecked and stuff. And it's an ego killer, right? Because you're mostly probably used to winning these single player games and stuff, to where the CPUs have, you know, fixed roots and active flaws in them and stuff that you could just take advantage of. And you're seeing that none of that exists in the realm of fighting games and stuff. You're fighting against an actual human opponent who's, you know, been playing for years now, and he ends up, like, destroying your ass because you are an inexperienced individual who knows nothing about the field. And 9 times out of 10, the 15-year-old from down the street who's been playing also for 3+ years can also kick your ass. But, you know, that's you and stuff, right? And eventually you settle down and stuff, and you begin to work on things such as your own, like, fundamentals here and there. You start to understand the mechanics of the game and stuff, frame data. You learn to read, like, number pad notations and stuff, and, you know, other small things that you write down in your pen and paper and stuff. And you go mad over the entire thing because of how complex everything is compared to most of the things relative in your life and stuff. You are a very simple individual, mind you. So this shit's like the most complex science to you at the current moment. And then eventually you take things online, you start to sweat it out, 100 games in a row, get your ass kicked here and there, win a few games every 100 or so. And then you eventually muster up the courage once you've won a few games to go up to your first local and stuff. And then you are come face to face with the world champion who's been playing for about 20 plus years. And he's has so many stories from back in the arcade days when Street Fighter 2 was still the new hottest shit. And this is you with your arcade stick, in fear because you have no idea some of the things that these guys have been through or seen. Like this right here is the guy that's gonna kick your ass, Mr. I don't know what to call him. Fuck that guy. And then eventually you start to play over and over again, and he kicks your ass in bracket, and you realize that there's a whole different world when it comes to playing in the offline setting and stuff. And then you go back into the drawing board and assess more things that you could improve on and stuff, and blah 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 and stuff. Take things online once again, start to play, get your ass kicked a few times here and there, blah blah blah, win a few games, go back into the local scene, play more games and stuff until you reach a point to where you are actually able to take one and stuff. And then this is you right here, happy with the first place medal, and this is first loser or second place when we want to be soft and nice about things. And he is a very sad individual. And the one thing I will do just to make things a bit more realistic and stuff is, why does that not work? Give me a sec. Oh, there we go. The tears are coming down his face and stuff, and onto his man boobs right there. And he's a very sad individual. And this is you just glistening in the eyes and stuff, and shining with all that victorious glory that's filling up your insides right now, as you now hold the title of being the best in the world and stuff. And eventually you come to realize that it don't mean shit at the end of the day. Oh man, I'm kidding. Maybe to some, if it like the victory itself is all they need, but it goes back to a lot of the things that I had talked about before. The things that I tend to look at, especially when it comes to like the finances, like side of things. I don't have another slide for it, but let's pretend that you eventually like realize that there's no money or not much money involved in it and stuff, and you end up working so hard for that first place finish, and you only end up getting like $50 for it, when that's enough to fill you a gas ride home nowadays with how gas is priced and stuff. And it can be a bit discouraging and stuff, I'm not gonna lie, especially if you had the silly idea to become some kind of like world-class player and actually make a career out of it and stuff. There's a reason why some of these pros are now coming out and saying that, yeah, don't come in thinking that you're gonna be some like rich and famous fighting game player and stuff. Like, that's just not how things work. A lot of it is luck at the end of the day. And like you may decide from there and there that you treat things more as like a real competitive endeavor for the passion of just like competing and stuff and fighting games, which is something that mostly I've been leaning more towards as time went on and stuff. But also there's aspects to it that bring me to like collect myself together and become more of a effective like thinker, because there's an art to like having to subdue your opponent and stuff and think them. It's actually very similar to what actual combat sports is like and stuff. because it deals with things like being able to read your opponent, learning how to, move in with offense, when to employ offense, when to fall back into defense and stuff. And it's actually very similar to how combat sports are, as far as the mental aspect of things, because obviously, like, there's not much physical involvement with fighting games or video games, period. But as far as mentally and stuff, you'll actually come to know that a lot of what you employ in combat sports almost works similarly to like how fighting games are and stuff. Which is why I still like, which is why I really like fighting games for that too. And you can almost treat it as a martial art. And there are things such as like meditation here and there that you can do that actually will, affect your own outlook on like playing the games too, which is I advise everybody just like give it a chance to really see what I'm talking about and stuff. And it's also the main reason why I am the way I am and stuff, which is a side that I don't really show much people, especially in the scene. Like, I can't lie, when I come to these events, I like to troll like a lot, and I just get a kick out of fucking with some people's heads sometimes. I'm not gonna lie, but there's this inner Shaolin monk inside of me that really has a huge, deep-rooted influence on like how I see the world and how I treat it and stuff. And it's actually a lot more reflective on the way that I play too. It can be really revealing the kind of individual that you are when you play games and stuff, especially fighting games. But all of that aside and stuff, to go back to some of the main things I was talking about before, all of this in between, like, leads you to something that's not really rewarding, as I said already from the start. And it's just kind of a shame and stuff, to be honest, because I really do enjoy the games and stuff, but you're not going to be getting back as much even with the more involved you become and stuff, and the more you put in of your own being. It's just not you don't get the return that you believe that you're gonna get the more you put your heart and the soul into something that already has very little to offer at the beginning. Because and also, like, the window to have access to those things is very small, because there can only be one winner at the end of the day, right? And then even there, like, the winners have to compete with each other, and there can only be one winner amongst them, and then one person goes home with $1 million. As of this time, now there's $1 million. But back then, like, barely like 10K and stuff for most games. Unless you're playing Street Fighter, you're not going to be getting more than like 6K or some shit and stuff for a tournament. Like, there's really no money involved that you could rely on for a stable financial future. Like, unless you're sponsored, or unless you do something in the realms of like streaming and content and stuff, it's not possible, dude. You have to keep this to the side. This thing has to be treated as like a side hobby and stuff. It's crazy, actually. And but I don't even regret my own time when I was in a more like competitive like frame of mind. But I am glad that I have started to let it die down a lot sooner into my life, versus like those who are still kind of there in their 30s and stuff involved with it. That's just not the kind of person I plan to be and stuff. Plus, I already had like a 10 plus year history with the entire thing. And that's something that I know I won't share with most people, because a lot of people that are at my age and stuff are actually finally coming into the scene, and their first game 9 times out of 10 was a game like Street Fighter 6 or Tekken 8, maybe even City of the Wolves. But you know, there's a huge difference once you've already spent like a decade and a half playing these games, despite everybody else relatively being the same age as you. Like there's just so much packed behind like the way I see things now, and why I've mentioned some things about the scene here. A lot of it is coming from the fact that I've just been kind of burnt out by everything. But also, I've had enough time to really get to know what the community itself is about, which is, y'all can have that. But also, what are the things that people are, heading towards when the more they get involved, like the competitive aspect of things and stuff. And being someone who was on that train for a good while, I knew enough was enough. And that's something that you yourself had to come to find out yourself, see for yourself, and also decide then and there what exactly it is that you want to get out of it if you were to continue things. Because having a lifetime career is definitely not happening and stuff for most people. It's like the less than 1%ers that can really, and even then most pros don't even do the content side really well, in my opinion. Their channels themselves are still really small despite them being big names in the scene. But you'll see a lot of their channels are like probably at like 1,000 subs and stuff. There's like a very few, and even then, like, we know like guys like Brian F or Broski who have, or JM Crofts, like I think Dato still plays fighting games and stuff. Like those guys are not at all like, at the top. Well, I mean, Broski is one, but Brian F and like JM Crofts and like Jay Wong doesn't even compete anymore. And their channels are the only ones that come to mind that have breached that like 100K like subscriber point, and they're actually having consistent streams and stuff that is able to actually support them like financially in some way, right? I don't know what else goes on behind the scenes as far as their finances. That's personal to them and stuff. But if we look at Hook and God as an example, like that, like he, like I saw like a small little podcast interview that he did and stuff, and even he had acknowledged that, early on, that because he found out that some of the pro players had actually still had a day job, and I even think Brian has a day job too. Like, come on, this shit is not at all like, this shit will definitely not back you up on a financial aspect, even on the content side of things, which is why I don't really even care like if any of this like blows up. Because I'm gonna be honest, like the last video I did, like when it came to like discussions and stuff, like I was surprised. I was really surprised that it tracked a lot more people, and it opened my eyes to the fact that people are really, really starting to get invested with this shit, more so than ever before. Even more so when I was around like when it was like the 4 era and stuff. Like people are really starting to like pop inside this fighting game shit, and I feel like it's fair to like kind of let y'all guys know where this entire thing stands after spending enough time on the offline setting, and kind of listening to some things here and there on how like things are online and the state of the games and stuff, and playing the games, being involved with it, knowing how my life has been with them. Like, you all gotta know like what it's about and stuff. at least my own like perspective on things, because a lot of people really do don't mind like having their entire I guess lives dedicated to this shit. Like I've met a few people who, you know, their free time, their idea of spending their free time when they're not playing whatever fighting game that they're playing is to play another fighting game. That's just not something I'm able to do for one. I don't even like most of the things that are out there now and stuff. Tekken got cooked. We all know that. Not a fan of MK on as a fighting game. I'm not really much of a fan of MK, and I just had no interest in City of the Wolves. I don't think it's bad looking from the outside, but it's definitely not a game that would make me go and spend, I can't remember how much it costs, like $60. Even if it was on sale, like I can live without, you know, ever touching the game. There's just no interest that I have. And well, Street Fighter is a game I enjoy, but I already mentioned like I'm definitely, the burnout is finally like caught up to me and stuff. So I might be taking a break for the most part. I haven't touched the game since like I got to master. So, and I've been enjoying my time to kind of like work on my other endeavors and just to relax and enjoy my summer. And it's been nice for the most part. So, you know, assess for yourself if you're wanting to like, you know, make the sacrifices and give up some of the other aspects of your life in order to achieve something like this. Because for a time it started to really like feel like I was hitting the point to where if I had dumped everything else, my time, my efforts into everything and into everything that relates to this and not on some of my other endeavors like the athletics and stuff and like even the content thing, like if I were to put all of that into this, I knew I could do it, but the question then comes, do I even want to do it? And I decided, nah, y'all can have it. Y'all can have it. I don't want to end up also missing out on things like this, right? Because it's something you also, well, I'm gonna be real, like not many gamers I know tend to be the most social of people anyways, but you know, being able to go out from time to time with friends and family is something that I also like to value. And I don't really value the fighting games more than this, especially nowadays. Like every opportunity I can, it'll be even in the middle of a ranked session that if I'm told like, you know, if I get hit with a message from a friend and stuff, or if I have, you know, someone from the family asking me to do like errands and shit or like roll with them for something, like I'm always up and ready for it and stuff. And it's always been a good time, especially nowadays. So yeah, that's pretty much my whole take on the entire thing. It's a lot, I know, and hopefully like there's something out of this that you guys can kind of like take for yourselves and stuff, and really know and really be honest with yourself when it comes to this whole like fighting game stuff, with how involved you want to be with it, and you know what exactly is it that you guys have like planned out for you to get out of this whole fighting game shtick. Like, do you want to take things far into like the competitive aspect and trade in as much effort to change like these things about yourself in order to become the individual that would be in this position right here? Or are you completely fine with treating things as like a more passionate thing, a hobby, if you will, and enjoying things even as like a spectator and stuff on the side, just watching these guys perform on stage and shit? It's all, dependent on who you are as a person and what you value at that time in your life. Because sometimes if you don't have much going on and stuff on your outside life, aside from like maybe work and stuff, then there really is no consequence to like trading in the time that you do have in order to pursue something like this and stuff, right? And I think that's what really attracts most people to this genre too. Because if you don't have much going on there, like, it's real easy to just like take your stick and go into like a local where they're only going to charge you like 10 to 15 bucks to enter a bracket, and to get to talk to people that share the same like passion of fighting games as you do, which is nice and all. Like, that's actually why I still kind of show up to these events too, because like there's no other place in the world where I would get the same kind of connection, with these fighting games the way that I would with like regular people and stuff, right? Like no one's gonna talk about like, frame data and the state of the game if I go to like some random, like, I don't know, a fucking Walmart and shit, while some guy's like shopping for groceries and stuff. But it's guaranteed that if you start to spit some shit about like about whatever game you're playing to some random dude at a local, like, they're gonna understand everything you tell them, because they are also in the same field that you are. So there's that aspect to it, right? And yeah, that's pretty much everything I got for y'all this time around. These are just some of the thoughts I've kind of had throughout the week. When I was thinking about like, how the things were standing as far as like my own content, but also my own involvement with the fighting game stuff, because the channel has definitely been gravitated towards more of the fighting game stuff. As I mentioned before, or maybe if I haven't mentioned it yet, like I'll mention it now. Like, this channel used to not be at all like related to the fighting game stuff, and I never knew how much people would show up with these videos or for these videos, and how much traction they would get. But over time, like, the averages as far as like the amount of views these videos have been getting have definitely been getting higher and higher the more that I start to upload. And I think it was the right it's the right time now to kind of like give y'all something that y'all can really like pick fruit from and stuff, and like really digest down into your own psyche to, find out more about yourself as an individual, and hopefully like help you out in your endeavors with the fighting game stuff. Because, I'm still in it to an extent. I don't really even consider myself true FGC, but I play fighting games and stuff. I like fighting games. And I also like, talking too about some of the deeper things as far as like the human psychology and the spirit from within, which is why I mention a lot of this shit here too. And how it all ties into the relatively small niche of fighting games. So that's pretty much all I got and stuff. It's 1 right now, so I gotta go do some other things that I'm trying to have done before I head into work and stuff. So if anybody has like questions about some of the things that I talked about, feel free to ask below. And who knows when the next time I'll make a another one of these videos. And when it's the only reason why I'm making this one was because a lot of people definitely, like, a lot of people have shown up for that Platinum the Ultimate Master video, and I see that a lot of people have gotten like good. I've gotten nothing but good feedback from it for the most part, and I think it would be I thought it would have been a good idea to like talk about some of these things too, that kind of tie in with like what I talked about as far as like Street Fighter, just so you guys can also have more to like help you guys out and stuff and relate to, I guess. So that's pretty much it and stuff. I'm gonna head out of here. This is Infinite 47. I'll be seeing y'all around. Peace.